Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for the audience, Robert Hunt. He's got a fantastic message, a timely message, especially in today's time. He's the accountability guy. His passion is talking about accountability, especially financial accountability. And he's got a great message to share. So, Robert, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be on your show.
Yeah. So, I know you have a message and briefly introduce yourself, and we'll dive right into the conversation.
I've been married to my beautiful wife, Kathy, for 25 years. I have two adult children. We live in the North Texas area in Frisco, and I run business that is helping business owners every month run their business through CEO groups. I've been doing that for 11 years. Back in 2019, though, we realized we were not living the life that we really wanted. Then the majority of that problem stemmed from our lack of fiscal responsibility. And we had got ourselves into $90,000 in debt, and it was choking us. And we had tried everything we could think of to grow the business, to bail us out of our bad decisions. But at the end of the day, we weren't able to get ahead of it. The only option that made sense to us was to take drastic measurements and own it and sell our house and start over. And we did. And by the beginning of 2020 in March, we had sold our home, moved into this lovely house that we rent, and used all that profits to get out of debt. And that journey of taking accountability for that part of our life was a catalyst towards the mindset of taking accountability for everything. And then through that, we just felt empowered and free to look at every area of our life, our health, our marriage, our faith, everything, and just say, are we living the life we want? And if not, what are we willing to do about it?
Yeah, I love that. And we need more individuals such as yourself to step up, take responsibility, own their decisions. Could be finances, relationship, health. We'll start off in the essence of accountability. What does true accountability mean to you? And why is it lacking in today's society?
True accountability in the simplest sense means you own it. It's that easy. You own it. Sometimes we do something and that's responsible, but there's a difference between responsible and accountable. Doing something is not enough because just showing up at work and collecting a paycheck is being responsible. But if you truly want to have results, you need to be accountable. That means you own it all the way through. And so for me, I found that power to be a whole light year ahead of what responsible was. And I think most people aren't even aware where they aren't accountable. They don't even see that anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just basically responsibility and accountability. You're in Frisco part of the year. I'm in Houston, and then they have this center point, which Houston calls itself the energy capital of the world, and can't even keep its lights on. And the center point is trying to raise rates, and it's just like ridiculous. So, next question is: many leaders, you see it over and over in government and corporations. It's like they can't do their jobs and they get promoted and they get raises. And why do many leaders struggle with holding themselves accountable? And why is it such a problem? It's almost like the corrupt keep getting ahead.
I don't think we're really aware of the lack of accountability, but it's very comfortable in our world to let somebody be a victim and declare, I can't do anything about that, or I'm doing that because of this problem. We blame, we make excuses, we say we can't, or we just wait and hope that it gets better. And we've, as a society, have come to a place where we expect that and we actually encourage and praise it. If you talk to someone who's struggling with something, they say, well, I'd love to do that, but I just can't. You go, oh, I get it. It's outside your comfort zone. And we encourage them by sympathizing. We're basically saying, yeah, you're right. You can't do anything. And so we become very comfortable with this idea of everyone playing the victim role. And we don't see it that way, but that's what we're doing. The government, for example, the longer we let them not do what they say they're going to do and do nothing about it, they're not going to hold themselves accountable. The reality is no one can hold anyone accountable. I can't hold the person I voted into office accountable. I can tell them, I think what you did is good or what you stand for is good. I'll vote for you. But then when they get in the office, I have no control over what they do. And if I call them up and go, hey, I don't like this, they're like, okay, thank you. And they can do whatever they want. So there's no punishment for a lack of accountability today. We let people be in debt and go broke and file bankrupt. We let people abuse their kids. We let people have horrible marriages and just live in a dysfunctional, sad, miserable life. And everybody just goes, yeah, okay, that's their choice. But then someone's going to have to own it at some point. It gets to a place where it just builds up and then we've got problems.
Yeah, it's just it reminds me of just like the national debt, 34 trillion now, and every year it just keeps getting worse and worse. And
Yeah. And no one's accountable for that because they always have some reason they make an excuse for why they can't cut. We have to take care of the police, don't we? Don't we want clean water? Whatever they make some kind of thing that goes, oh yeah, I guess I should vote for that. We're allowing them not to own it. That's the simplest definition is owning it. So if we say we're no longer going to vote for people who will increase the debt, who do we vote for? Because by the time they get in the office, they're negotiating chips and they end up voting for something that you're against anyway. It's frustrating.
yeah. And the other thing is great CEOs. I think these days there's only a handful of really great companies. And what are the top traits of great CEOs, the top 5 traits from the rest, and how do these traits relate to accountability?
Yeah, I would argue there's a lot of great companies out there that you just don't think about them because they're not gigantic companies. The small companies are the ones that are doing that. What is 80% of the business in the world is small businesses. I think there are a lot of people doing the right things. They're just not being heard about. But from my experience working with business owners, the things that great CEOs doing is that they're constantly learning. They're pouring into their people. They're the ones who are making tough decisions. Not all the decisions they make are good decisions, but they own them. I think that as a CEO, you have to be able to make a decision, whether it's a good one or not, that's up to the results to show. But when they make a decision, they own it because that's accountability. Even if it's a bad decision, they still own it. And then they're driving results. They're getting things done. A real CEO is not doing the work. They're driving the work. They're mentoring, they're leading, they're caring for their people. And I think that's the difference. If you never get a team that you can trust, that you are willing to pour into and let them have the room to fail and to be creative, then you're always going to be a small company. But taking that risk and allowing your team to take on more ownership of things gives you more freedom to do the other things you want to get done.
Yeah. Sounds like it boils down to integrity and just doing the right thing. But you've got 20 plus years of experience as an executive coach. What are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned about leadership and accountability?
The simplest part about leadership that I've learned is that you can't do it alone. We are self-deluding ourselves when we do it alone. I know that pretty much all the ideas I come up with are great, and I never have a bad idea. But every once in a while, something is wrong. And I think when you do it alone, you start to believe your own press. And when we get really busy, we get focused on doing things. We cut out people from our lives and we run down the road in a hurry and we're not making responsible decisions. If I'm truly going to be accountable as a leader, I must be vulnerable. I must invite people in and let them look at what I'm doing. They don't have to get their permission, but you're a fool if you're doing things without input from other people because you're going to miss stuff. You've spent so much time thinking about it. That decision is so great. It's fabulous. There could be no downside, but we allow people to give you feedback. You're going to miss things that could either hold you back or that could have been better if you invited people in. So I think doing it in isolation is dangerous and that doesn't allow accountability and it doesn't allow creativity either.
Yeah. And moving on, this idea of just CEOs and high performance, it causes burnout. And what strategies do you recommend for avoiding overload while maintaining high performance and accountability?
Yeah. All the leaders that I work with are busy people and busy is the new stupid. And just doing a lot of something isn't great. What you want to do is the right thing. And so when I run into someone who tells me they're so busy, they don't have time to do this or that, I challenge them. If you're owning the company, if you're the leader, you have to be intentional. You have to create room for everything to interrupt you. Every day you go to work, something goes wrong. Some employee doesn't come in. Some customer decides to quit and go to another company. You have a vendor that doesn't deliver. You have the bank calling you something with your loan. There's always something. And if we don't create room for the unexpected, we always hit overload. And so I've taught my clients to guard aggressively 3 main buckets to protect the 4th bucket: time, finances, and health. And if you can focus on avoiding overload in those 3 categories, you protect the fourth category, which is your emotions. I can't measure my emotions very well until I lose it and yell at somebody on the freeway. They're, oh, I guess I'm stressed out. But if you look at the other three, I can control and measure my time. I can control and measure my finances. And I can control and at least be aware of most of my health. How many hours of sleep? What do I weigh? How much did I work out? What do I eat? What's my blood pressure? All these things I can do, I can measure and control to some extent. I cannot measure and control my emotions very well. And so it's important that we work very aggressively to create room for margin in those first three buckets so we don't overload in any area, but aggressively protect the emotional area, because that's where we make really bad decisions.
Yeah. And you want to always be making decisions from about clarity. You've guided many leaders to define their purpose. And you've obviously found your purpose, which is really inspiring. What are the steps to identifying one's purpose, and how does clarity improve accountability?
There's a great book called Dare to Serve Leadership by Cheryl Batchelder. She was the CEO of Popeye's Chicken and did an amazing job turning it around. Cheryl wrote this book, Dare to Serve Leadership. And in the back of it, she outlines a very easy to follow process to define your purpose. But the basic core when I take my clients through the session is, let's look at the journey you've been on. God uniquely created you for something. You were born here at this place, at this time, with these skills, with these people around you. There's a purpose to where you are. And then there are certain things you care about, values that matter to you, things that are core, justice and caring for people or excellence, whatever things are at the core of who you are. And then there's your skills. You have some innate skills that if I could just show up in a room, I could do this better than anybody else because I have these skills that I'm uniquely wired with. When we take all three of those together, along with a couple other parts of opportunities, we can map out and come up with a very clear definition of your purpose. I've taken clients through it many times, but I think if you go get the book, Dare to Serve Leadership, it'll guide you in that step by step. To me, once I learned my purpose in life, I was able to make decisions against that purpose. Knowing your purpose helps you make a great decision against two really good options. They're both really good, but this one actually lets me pursue my purpose or more aggressively pursue my purpose. And then it'll help you make better decisions on what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that book out as well. And for the audience, the links will be in the show notes. The other question is basically faith, and I'm not very religious, but one thing I've really found is that people of like strong faith, they have accountability and integrity. So, how has your faith influenced your approach to accountability and leadership?
I think my accountability, the idea of accountability when it comes to my faith is this idea that, it's back to your statement of you own it. I follow what the Bible teaches and the model that Christ set. And so if I look at that and he says, this is how it's supposed to be, how you're supposed to roll, it's clear what to do. And since I'm going to own it, I'm going to decide, am I going to do it or not? And there's no people at work may not like it, or I may lose some clients, or I don't have this. You have to make decisions on what you believe and you should act on it. Not everyone believes what I believe, and that's fine. It's not my job to convince anyone to believe what I believe, but it is my job to own it. I should treat people based on the things that I've read in the Bible. I should spend my money based on the things I've learned in the Bible. I should honor my wife and serve her and raise my children and be a good neighbor. All these things that I do, they're driven by what I've learned about my faith. And I have to own that. Nobody's going to make me do it or do it for me. It's very simple. But I think what people do a lot of times is they put their faith on hold and go to work for 5 or 6 days a week. And the incongruity that is caused inside of you causes a lot of stress. I don't go to work and forget that I'm married. I don't go to work and forget that I have kids or that I love the Cowboys. I remember all these things all the time. For some reason, people think I should leave my faith at church on Sunday and come back and visit it next week. But then you're missing part of who you are that makes you awesome. And there's this internal stress of not being true to who I am. So for 5 or 6 days a week, I'm going to try and stuff down and ignore something I say is really important. Talk about stress. That's just got to make you feel like you're sick, I'm lost. I don't even know how to respond to things. But if I take it with me, I treat people based on the things I say I believe. I look at problems with that mindset and I respond accordingly.
Yeah, there was a great book that I recently read which was talking about respond, don't react, and same thing that you were talking about decisions, making decisions from a clear that versus an emotional
Yeah.
standpoint.
Our emotions lie to us. And they do. And one of the cool things I started doing last year was a journal. I don't know if you've ever journaled before, but taking those thoughts out of my brain and putting them on a piece of paper has been magical for me because sometimes I really feel a lot of weird emotions and I don't even know where they came from, but they're spinning around in my head. If I take a minute and write them down, I go, that's not true. I don't believe that. But until I got it on a piece of paper, it owned me. When I took it out of my brain and put it on a piece of paper and I realized that's a lie, now I own that. And that clarity has helped me not to spend energy chasing emotions that really weren't true, that really weren't what I believed or really felt.
Yeah. We have a few more minutes remaining and talk about sometimes this accountability integrity has, these serious tones and connotations, but you make accountability fun. And how do you bring joy into the process of holding yourself and others accountable?
The word accountability does seem punitive. It does seem like I'm holding you accountable, like it's a threat. But the reality is nobody can hold anyone accountable. You can hold yourself accountable if you want to. When Kathy and I decided that we didn't like the lives we were living and we were willing to own it and to take ownership and to do something about it, we said to ourselves, look, nobody cares. Nobody cares whether you're broke or fat or not happy in your marriage or angry at God. Nobody cares unless you care enough to do something about it. And when you do care enough to do something about it, you gain the power to change it. If I'm a victim, everything that happens to me is against me. But if I own it, I have the power to do something about it. And so for me, accountability is freedom and peace and joy, pursuing the life I really want instead of sitting back here and saying, woe is me, I'm a victim. Everybody hates me. I got screwed by my parents. My spouse doesn't love me. My kid, nobody cares. You got to own it. You got to do something about it. And please understand, I'm not telling people to run around and start telling everybody you talk to, hey, nobody cares. Get your crap together. This is what you say to yourself when you're about to make excuse or blame somebody or just say you can't. Go, wait, wait, wait. Say to yourself, nobody cares unless I'm going to do something about it. And when I do, I have the opportunity to change every aspect of my life. To me, that's joy and power and freedom.
Yeah, really. I love that. It's very empowering. It's empowering. And the more as I age, but it's true. It's not about you. It's like this world's got billions of people in this. And you think everything is about you. It's very childish.
Naive. Yeah. People spend less time thinking about you than you imagine. The reality is that everyone has their own problems. Yeah, I grew up in a very abusive home. My father was an angry person. He beat my mom and us many times, and I grew up in fear of him. So when I got older, I could have been bitter about my childhood. I could have blamed my father and been a jerk dad or an angry husband, but that's not who I am. I've been redeemed by the God of the universe. I have my hope set on him. Why would I be angry about anything? And so we have hard times. I have a friend who has cancer right now, and that sucks. But he has to walk that journey and he can't go, I'm blaming the government for my cancer. He's got cancer. You got to own it, whether you like it or not. Sometimes it's thrown in our face and we really have to recognize, okay, I got to own this. But a lot of times we can weasel out of it. All it does is delay and keep us as a victim, and it never gets any better. I just find that life is way better when you own it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How can people find out more about you and the work that you do and reach out to you or work with you, etc.?
We have a website that is nobodycaresbook.com. And of course, our book is available on Amazon and Target and Barnes and Noble, all those places. But if you buy it from us, we'll autograph it and we'll give you a custom bookmark and a sticker to go with it. More importantly, we want to get to know you. We want to get your email and we want you to email us on your journey and tell us how your life is changing. We want to have you be a part of our community. For your particular podcast, I opened up a new domain called nobodycarespod.com. And if people who are listening to your show will go to nobodycarespod.com, fill out the contact form, put the code word freedom, I will mail them a copy of our book at no charge for the first two people who fill that out.
Yeah, I love that. And for the audience, those links will be in the show notes. And let's thank Robert for coming on and sharing his wisdom and his genuine and his expertise. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.